When we think of phishing, we think of going somewhere peaceful, casting out your pole, and hopefully bringing in something delicious to eat. Phishing with a PH, not quite so much. Phishing is the act of luring users into clicking on links that will take you to fake websites in order to steal passwords, PIN numbers, and other types of sensitive information. So again, phishing is the attempt to acquire sensitive information such as usernames, passwords, credit card details, and sometimes indirectly money by masquerading as a trustworthy entity in an electronic communique. Faking your identity online is called catfishing, and it's quite often used to defraud people. The communication supposedly is from popular websites such as auction sites, banks, online payments, payment processors, or even IT administrators, help desk. This is probably the most common form of phishing online. I'm sure you've all seen it. You get requests from eBay, you get requests from Amazon, from your bank. You've won this auction, click on it, or your password needs to be reset, it's been expired, and it's not from the real site. And in a minute I'm going to show you how you can tell if that email is from the real or if it's a fake phishing email. Spear phishing is a little different. Spear phishing targets a specific organization or a specific person within the organization. So spear phishing is a targeted attack. And these are more dangerous because when a person sends you an email, a phishing email, and they've done some background work on you, they know your circle of friends, they know where you work, they know your boss's name, they know your name, they know a lot of information, so they can craft a very detailed message. They know the people that you communicate with, so those messages seem legit, because all of a sudden you don't get an email that reads, "Dear user," okay, you're going to get an email that reads "Dear" and your name is there, okay. The signature is from someone that you know, okay, and it's about something that you either know about or something that's going on in your life because they've done some research, okay. And so these are very hard to spot, and in a minute I'm going to show you how to spot phishing emails in general. Whaling is the same thing as spear phishing, but it attacks basically high net worth individual or individuals that are either famous or they're going to make big waves, or they actually are the holders of important information. So something might be either somebody in the engineering department in a company that has intellectual property, it might be a senior executive, it might be a movie star, okay. That's why they call it whaling, because you're after someone big. And the bad thing about being big is that there's a lot of information online about you, okay? Magazine articles, newspaper clippings, there are all kinds of things online. So the people that are making these emails, they have a lot to go on, a lot of information about that person. And these emails are very targeted and usually very well crafted. Watering hole attacks. Remember a few slides back we had spoken about people that often think, I can't have a virus because I don't go anywhere that I shouldn't be going online. And I had mentioned it doesn't matter, okay? And this is exactly why, because of watering holes. A watering hole is a two-step attack where the perpetrators first take control of a website. And believe me when I can tell you that there's no shortage of exploits out there for hosted websites. Most of them run on platforms, Joomla, Drupal, others, that have exploits. And when somebody finds an exploit and starts to use it, they come up with patches, and it's relative because your hosting provider may or may not apply the patches on time, or whoever is doing your website, they might have 100 websites. I don't know how efficient they're going to be at updating it, putting these patches on. So there's a lot of websites that get hacked on a daily basis. So in a watering hole attack, a perpetrator finds an exploit, they get into a website and they upload their malicious code. That's step one. Step two is when you visit that website, okay, then that website, Okay, you trust it, you've been to it, you may go to it every day, it may be a well-known website. But this time the website's asking you to do something that it hasn't asked you before, which is to download a piece of software, or it's asking you for some information that it had never asked you before. For example, if you go to a particular website and every day it would authenticate you by asking you what are the 4 last digits of your social. But then you go to it one day and it's asking you for your entire social. That right there is a red flag. Okay. If it's asked, so look for changes in behavior on websites that you go to and that you trust. Antivirus should also catch if it's trying to download malicious code into your computer. First of all, your computer should be set up that it shouldn't allow websites to just download a code to you arbitrarily. You should be prompted. That's one thing, but your antivirus should catch that regardless. But you have to be on the lookout for that website asking you for information that it normally doesn't. So changes in behavior. If you suspect something, call the website owners and ask them if they've made these changes and if they are in fact asking you for this additional information. Baiting is when attackers use physical items, okay, as bait. Okay. For example, leaving a USB stick or some other device somewhere and waiting for you to find it. So you might go somewhere and find a USB stick on the ground and you look at it, you pick it up, oh, it's a 64 gig, lucky me, I found this. Well, that device may be infected with some type of malware. And especially if you work at a sensitive location, medical facility, government facility, and you find a USB stick just on the ground of a lobby or outside in the parking lot, don't just think somebody dropped it. Take it to your IT manager, or call us if you're one of our clients and let us know about this, okay? Because these baiting scams are actually more common than you might think. Typosquatting is when an attacker registers a domain name similar sounding to the real thing. And it's pretty common, but sometimes these typosquatters they register these domains knowing that people are going to accidentally land on them, and then they serve up a malicious website. It happens all the time to me with Google. I type in Ghoul instead of Google. Turns out that Ghoul is a website of a small town in England, and I land on their site by accident. So you have to be also careful about typosquatting. Our antivirus platform that we install on your computers, it actually has a database of known typosquatting or malicious sites that are phishing sites. So if you accidentally land on one of these, it will either block it or alert you, give you a warning. But if you don't have this type of software, just be careful when you're typing in your URL directly. And also, if you're not typing the URL directly into the URL bar, you're actually going into the Google search box. Be careful, because sometimes paid advertisers will buy similar sounding domain names and they'll take you to a fake website and you actually think that you're on website XYZ when you may not be. So always look at the URL and be very careful with this. Pretexting is an attack where the attacker fabricates a story with false circumstances to compel a victim into handing over whatever information or financial gains or whatever it is that they're trying to get out of it. One of the most famous hacks in history was a social engineering attack using pretexting. The attacker was attempting to steal some information from a government contractor, and he waited until it was a snow day, knowing that the facility would probably be mostly empty of senior management, and called in, and sure enough, an intern answered the phone, and he stated that he was so-and-so person, which was obviously false, and said, I need to work from home, but I left my RSA key in my desk. Can you please go through my desk and just read me the code so I can get in? And this gullible intern complied, and one of the most famous hacks in history occurred. You probably also have read stories where, for example, a young kid or teenager or 20-something-year-old is doing their European tour and posts pictures of himself on social media about what a great time he's having in Europe. Somebody will pick that up and then call the kid's mother or grandmother, stating that they are from the whatever police department and that the kid's been arrested and then they need to post bail, and they give them instructions to wire transfer money to a lawyer, and of course it's a scam. Okay, so again, these stories could be fabricated from information that can easily be had through social media. This year, one of my business associates was traveling to the U.S. and he posted details of his flight trip on social media, and the day of his flight I actually got a call from somebody claiming that they were from the airport, and they told me that he had been found to have over $10,000 of undeclared cash, and then they said, let me put him on the phone, and somebody came out, but I knew it wasn't him because of his voice, and his whole thing was, I need to get out of this mess. I need you to come here and I need some bail money, of course, and so some hackers basically, or some fraudsters basically, were going through social media and they found his posting that he was going to be in the U.S. and so they tried to scam me with that. Luckily, I didn't fall for it. So you've got to be really, really careful what you post on social media. And when you get a call from someone and there's a sense of urgency, when people try to get you to act quickly, it's for a reason, because they don't want you to think about it too much, because you might draw a better conclusion if you do. So always think about everything. Don't freak out. Don't go into a panic, and don't give out information, because in panic mode, people are more susceptible and more gullible. So always be calm, think things through. If you need some time, tell the person, I need some time to think about this. If at that point they're pressuring you to act now, then that's a red flag that you could be going through some type of a scam. This pie chart illustrates some of the more common methods of attack. As you can see here, we have at 24% financial and e-pay organizations and banks, and I'm sure you've all seen requests from PayPal, eBay, from your bank and your financial institution requesting password resets that are fake. Okay. A lot of online stores and auctions, as I mentioned, eBay. We have social networking sites that also prompt you for password resets, trying to gain access to your username and password. There's a lot of things that are not real. When you go through search engines, a lot of the results may be fake websites. They may be up there for a couple days or a couple of weeks before somebody figures out that they're fake and takes them down. There's a lot of fraud in the IT business, so you have to be careful when you receive a call from some type of help desk. If you're one of our clients, we have assigned groups of techs for your company, so you're always going to get a call from the same 2 or 3 people. You'll be able to recognize their voices. If you don't recognize their voice, then hang up and tell them you have to call us back and call our number. Never answer any emails or click on any email links claiming that they're from our tech support department. We usually don't send you, or actually we never send you connection requests to your computer via email. We use a messenger system called Spark, okay, and that's a closed system with encryption, and we also use the phone, and you can recognize our tech's voice. But if you're dealing with larger tech companies or larger managed service providers, sometimes you talk to different people. If you get a call out of the blue, you're not expecting it, it's about a ticket that you haven't opened, the best thing to do is just say, hey, I got to call you back, and then call their number. So there's just a lot of fraud out there, so you've really got to be careful and be on your toes the whole time. Email harvesting is the act of collecting email addresses to later on use it to send spam or to send phishing attacks. And how do people get your email address? There's a couple of methods. The first one is automated programs that go through chain emails or through websites, and they take emails from there. So if you have your email address listed on your website or on your social media or anywhere, there are automated programs that just go through all these known websites looking, and they follow links across pages looking for email addresses. So if you post your email address on the internet or on your company's website, you can be sure that you're going to be the recipient of a lot of spam. Computer viruses, as well as viruses on your phones, they can go through your address book on your email client and pick up your email addresses from there. So if your computer gets infected, all the people that are on your address book could possibly wind up in spam mail lists. Okay? If all of a sudden you start getting a lot of spam from one day to another and nothing's changed, like you haven't changed the type of spam filter that you have or the settings haven't changed, it's probably that somebody in your circle of friends or somebody who you email correspond with may have gotten hacked, may have gotten a computer virus that went through their address book and copied that person's contacts, and now you've been added to an email list. Chain mails are also used to collect email addresses. If you see chain mails where they say forward this to 10 people or forward this to 20 people, that's just a boatload of email addresses that wind up showing up, and when these things land in the hands of wrong people, they can grab those email addresses and add them to their bulk mail lists. Also, when you sign up for freeware services, the terms and conditions always tell you we may share information with some of our associates or some of our partners, just to kind of translate the corporate speak, we may get your email address and sell it to a bunch of other people, and so that they could send you unsolicited, or in this case you agreed to it, so it's not really unsolicited, but it's a shady area. But when you're signing up for things online and they ask you for your email address, and you're basically, it's a carte blanche for people to send you email. A lot of times you go to we do this all the time. We're doing some research online, and there's a report that somebody's published, and in order to get that report, they want your email address. If we read the terms and conditions, half the times, or actually most of the times, it states that they may share our information with third parties. Okay, so now we're going to get to the nitty-gritty of phishing, and that is how you can identify a phishing email. The best way is to look through something called the headers. We're not going to go through it here because it's very technical, but if you want to research that online, you can search on how to look up your email headers. And there are companies like MX Toolbox and others that you can actually copy and paste the headers onto a form on their website, hit submit, they'll analyze it for you, and they'll tell you exactly where the email is coming from. So you can see its authenticity. Okay, if for example you're using Office 365 and somebody sends you an email, you're not sure it's them, you take the headers, you run it through, and then it tells you that it's coming from somewhere, an IP address in East Asia or something, or then you know it's fake. Okay, because you really can't fake the headers. You could fake the sender, but the headers, the IP addresses are going to show there. If they try to fake that, most of the routers along the way are going to drop it. Okay, so we're going to get into some non-technical aspects where you can identify fake emails. The first in this example here is Dear, and there's a generic salutation. Most companies that are sending you legitimate email, they know who you are. Okay, so if somebody's sending you a generic salutation, technically you shouldn't really trust that. Just look at it and analyze it and make a decision. But for most part, companies should know your name. Also, you're going to have this suspicious link here. This one, it may be asking you to, let's see, again, this is very generic. Admin email help desk center. It doesn't say the name of a company. Okay, So let's say that this is an email asking you for a password reset from a service, let's say it's from us. Falcon IT Services is requesting you to do something. But then when you look at the link is to 123contactform.com. So right there, that is a dead giveaway right there. Okay. Now sometimes this could be obfuscated, and we'll get to that in the next slide. But this is a very easy one. Okay. Again, generic salutation, and then the URL does not really correlate with the company that it's supposedly from. In general, it's a bad idea to follow links from emails that are asking you to visit a web page. If in doubt, call the person that sent it and ask them if they did send it. Be wary from emails from banks, credit cards, the IRS, utilities such as the phone companies. The IRS will never send you email. They'll send you something in postal mail or snail mail. Okay, so just be wary of that. And also be wary of expiration notices, your credit cards expiring, password resets, surveys, or anything like that that might take you somewhere, and especially if it's asking you for a password or for any kind of personal information. So look at the context of an email also as a good way of determining if it's fake. Here I have some examples. I'm sure you've all been to the supermarket and you've seen these tabloid papers. And once you look at the context, you can easily tell that it's fake. This is one of the more famous ones, Bat Child Found in Cave. I mean, you look at that picture, you can pretty much tell by the context that this stuff is fake. Well, guess what? In emails, the same principle applies. If you carefully analyze it, now it does take a little bit more analysis, because in emails you're not going to see these big pictures, looking out, this bat boy, staring out at you, where it's obviously fake. In emails it's a little more subtle, but if you read into the subtleties, you'll be able to tell that whether or not it's fake. Look at the context, okay? And if things are out of context, right there, you could tell it's fake. For example, if your boss sends you a picture of My Little Pony or something about My Little Pony, that's out of context. Or if your fifth grader sends you an Excel spreadsheet and writes, here are the projected, quarter 3 sales data, that's out of context. Okay, the boss sending you that would be in context, and your child sending you something about My Little Pony would be in context, but not the other way around. So always look at the context and say, would this person really be sending me this? Because sometimes when the people create these emails, they fake the sender, but they don't know if the sender is 5 years old or 10 years old or 50 years old, or if he's a CEO or if he's a warehouse worker. So look at the context again. If the CEO is sending you an email, saying here's the invoice for the forklift repair, that probably should be coming from the warehouse guy. And if the warehouse guy is, sending you something saying here's the invoice for the lawyer we hired to do our restructuring, that is out of context also. So context is one good way to tell. Use common sense, read things over, read it carefully, and then you will come to a much better conclusion. If you glance over it, and listen, I know that everybody's in a hurry and we all want to be productive, we all want to get our work done, but again, read carefully, take your time, and analyze it. If you use a junk filter, and we have a variety of methods of spam filtering that we use. One of them is SonicWall. SonicWall sends everything to a junk filter. What I would recommend is to, if you have something in your junk filter, don't just unjunk it. If you're not 100% sure, call the help desk, let us look at it, and then unjunk it for you. Okay. And remember, sender addresses can be spoofed. Okay, anybody can send you an email, and write that it's from Miguel at falconitservices.com. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's from me. So don't just look at the sender to determine whether it's real or not. And again, in targeted attacks, not only will the sender be spoofed, but you won't have some of the other generic things like the generic greetings. It's actually going to say "dear" and it's going to say your name. So you know, you've got to really look carefully at emails to determine whether they're real or not. So here we're going to look at a couple of other dead giveaways. Here, even though this could be spoofed or fake, but in this case, you look here and it shows that it's from the Intuit Payment Network, but it's from realliving.com. So there's a fake that's obviously fake and easy to spot, even though they're not all that way. Another thing is that they could sometimes write in fake numbers, fake information, because they're going to think, well, people are too busy to look it up. So here they write, funds will be withdrawn from the bank account number ending in 9513. And, you know, they're probably counting on that somebody's going to look at that and say, oh, this must be real because they know the ending account number of my credit card or my bank. But if you actually look in your checkbook or you look in your credit card, that's probably not the account number. Okay, so that might be another dead giveaway right there. So another good way to prevent phishing is to double check the facts. It takes a little bit more time, okay, and I know we're all in a hurry, but double check the facts. Also, this is big, the use of threats. When you are being threatened, okay, and I don't mean, oh, I'm going to go there and, you know, do something to you. No. These are threats of, I'm going to close your bank account, money is going to be withdrawn, you're not going to get your refund, you're going to miss out on something. Those types of threats. When you see those types of subtle threats, okay, they're putting pressure on you. They want you to act quickly. That is a sign of a scam. So your bank is, you know, they're generally not going to threaten you in the way that an email scammer is going to threaten you. The email scammer has a sense of urgency because they want to get this done as quickly as possible. They don't want you to think about it too much. So look for the use of threats. In this case, the threat is that we're going to withdraw $1,555 from your bank account. Okay, so you read that and you're like, oh my God, they're going to take that money out. Okay, and it will be transferred to your to some other account, and you think, oh, somebody might have accidentally used my credit card or whatever. Well, no, they're just using a threat to get you to act quickly. Now, here's another. Okay, they always put links here. They'll always put a real link to something. For example, here they might put a link to the Federal Reserve Bank. If you click on it, it will take you to the Federal Reserve Bank. It doesn't matter, they just put that in there to give it a sense of legitimacy. The real link here is funds will be typically processed unless, and then it gives you a link here to say if you dispute this charge, click here, and that's where they're going to get you. Before you click on it, or actually you really shouldn't click on it, but before you act, okay, what you want to do is take your mouse and hover over the link and wait for this little yellow box to appear. That little yellow box will tell you exactly where that link is going to take you. Now, anybody could create a link that reads www.falconitservices.com on the outside, okay, or what you're going to see with your two eyes, right, where it's going to be obvious. But when you move your mouse over it and you leave it there for a few seconds and that little yellow box pops up, that's going to tell you the real place where you're going to be led to from that link. So again, the link could read www.falconitservices.com, but it may take you to another place. So just because it says yourbank.com doesn't mean that it's going to take you there. Okay? So hover your mouse over it and read carefully the dialog box the pop-up box that appears, so that you know exactly where it's going to take you. Also, check the email for grammatical errors, spelling errors, alarmist messages. These are also dead giveaways about that could tell you whether the email is fake or not. Always be wary when you're getting messages from online auctions, social media, banks, especially if it's unexpected. In general, if you receive an email and you're not specifically expecting it, then be wary of it. Okay. Phishing emails often will take you to somewhere that's going to ask you for additional information, such as your password, your PIN number, the last 4 digits of your social security number. They're just basically trying to get more information out of you. In this example here from Wells Fargo, there is bad grammar. Okay, so if you read through the email, you're going to see some bad grammar. Right here, the indentation. Wells Fargo is a big corporation. I'm sure they have people that are going to send out grammatically correct emails. So the grammar, spelling, things like that, dead giveaway. Dead giveaway. Again, in this example, you can see how this email is claiming to be from LinkedIn. But when you hover over the details of the site that they want you to go to, it's from spandau.de, and DE is Denmark, I believe. So, not where you think it's from. Okay, here again, if you read the context and you think, you're going to realize, that it's fake. This is a WAV file. It's and these are very common. You may have received them. Your phone system, modern phone systems are able to get your voicemail messages and send them to you by email. Okay, that's great. But scammers know this, and so they send out fake messages. One of the ways that you could tell is by just looking at it and making sure that it is from your phone system. So, for example, if the message states that it's from your Vmail system, I don't know what that is. I've never heard of it. I guess it's meant to sound very generic. Okay. If the message system says you have a message from your Avaya phone system, but you actually have an asterisk or a Panasonic or some other type of phone system in your office, you can tell that's fake. Okay. In this example here, it's also easy to tell because the attachment is .wav.html. A lot of times, attachments have 2 extensions. One is the real one, and the other one's the fake one. So the WAV is the fake one. It puts this so that you think it's a WAV file, which is how most of these voicemail systems send you messages by mail. But then at the end, it appends the real one, which is .html, which is a website. So this is obviously just a web page. If you click on it, it's probably going to bring you to another link that's going to take you somewhere else. So just be wary of these messages from considering that are purportedly from voicemail systems. Okay, so remember how earlier on we had discussed haveibeenpawned.com. Okay, go there and enter your email address and see if you have been in fact affected. There's a list of websites that are known breaches where the hackers have breached us and they've stolen email addresses, passwords, all kinds of information. Okay, so if you go in there and you enter your email address, it'll tell you if you've been breached, and that means that someone out there has your email address and the password that you use for these services. Okay, so for example, LinkedIn. I was in here and I was breached, and somebody knows my LinkedIn password that I had at the time. Fortunately, I had different passwords for all my services. I don't use the same password for LinkedIn that I use for my Gmail than I use for the other things. So all they would have gotten is access to my LinkedIn at the time. But some people do. Some people do share passwords. They'll have the same password for multiple services. So the people that take these information, what they'll do is they'll start to think, well, this person had a LinkedIn account, their email address is so-and-so, their password is whatever, the password here. And they'll say, let me see if this person has a Gmail. So they'll go to Gmail and they'll try to use the same username and password. They'll go to some banks, they'll try to use. So if you share passwords, they're going to start to find other things that you use and they're going to get into them. That's why it's never a good idea to share the same password across multiple services. But here's a phishing scam that is a direct result of you landing in one of these. So the hackers that have downloaded these email addresses and passwords will send out emails, okay, such as this one. And they will write your password out for you. So when you receive this email, it's got your name, which is usually whatever appears before the @ sign in your email address. They'll clip that out to make it sound like they know your name. Or if the database breach had your full name, they'll use that. So you'll get this very personalized email, dear so-and-so, and you say, ooh, they know my name. And you look at it and you say, oh my God, that is my password. I recognize that. I've used that before. Just for the record, this is a really bad password to use. This is called LEET, and if you're using LEET, which is substituting symbols like the $ for S's or zeros for the word O, those are terrible, terrible passwords. But in this case, this person did have this password. They probably looked at it and said, oh my God, I recognize this password. It's a password that I've been used. Then they keep reading, and the email states, we know your password because we've hacked into your computer, and in this case, it's an extortion email stating, we've seen you looking at things that you shouldn't be. You can get into big trouble. You got to pay me $1,400. If you do, well, our little secret is kept with us. People might fall for that, and it's got familiarity because it's going to show your password. So don't be fooled by these. Okay, if you receive an email like this, first of all, think simply. Somebody who's going to extort you, and they're going to tell you, okay, if you pay this amount, we're going to delete the information that we have about you, about what you were doing or whatever, and you'll never hear from us again. If it's a real extortionist who has real information, the odds are that when they blow through that $1,400, they're going to come after you again. So, never fall for this, and even if it's real, don't even pay this kind of stuff. And it's just, I'm not an attorney or in the legal business, so I'm not trying to give you any legal advice. I'm just kind of figuring, out of common sense, that if this were something that would be real, they would probably not let up after the first time. But again, most of the times that you receive something like this, it's fake. Okay, as I mentioned before, you should not click on any links that come from emails that are taking you to a website asking you for any details, whether it's a username, password, login details, PIN number, anything like that. The odds are that it's going to be fake. If you do go to, and you do follow a link and you end up in a website, you have to make sure that you're in the right website. And there's a lot of ways that people that craft these websites and these emails can obfuscate the real URLs. In this particular example here, it's very crafty. The real website is halifax.co.uk, and actually modern browsers, they will write the domain name out. Okay, they will display the domain name out in dark letters, and then the rest in gray. These are subfolders and other information out there. Excuse me, other information in like CGI bins and things like that. That will be grayed. What this person did here is they were very crafty. They took the entire line of here. They took the domain name plus the subdirectories plus some of the programming features and things, and then they created one big long URL. Okay, so if you look at the whole thing is in bold. That means that the browser sees the whole thing as a URL because it's this, that, and you never even get to the end, to the .com, which is called the top level domain. It's somewhere all the way over here hidden. So you've got to be very careful, and I know that this is something that's a little bit technical, but just make sure that when you're going to a website, you can view the entire domain name, okay, in the single space that the browser uses it to display it, and that you see that the rest is grayed out. Okay, the domain name should be in black. Okay, and actually, what really you should is, if you receive an email and it's from your bank saying that you need to reset your password, don't follow the link from that email. If you think it's real, the best thing to do is just close out that email and then go to your bank's website. Go open up a browser and type www.yourbank.com. That way you can be sure that you're going to the real bank site. Okay, here is another sample phishing email, and I'm going to go through once again, reiterate some of the techniques that are used to trick people, and also how you can find out what's real and what's fake. Here, one of the tricks is that they put in the logo of a trusted company to give you that sense of familiarity, which we discussed before. That doesn't mean anything. Anybody could copy and paste a graphic image. One of the giveaways is that Visa here wrote "Dear Visa customer" instead of writing "Dear" and your name. Your credit card company should know your name. So right there, that generic salutation is a dead giveaway. The second thing is they write in a professional manner. If you look at the text, the spelling, sometimes the way that they threaten you, it's not something that a big company, in this case the hackers purporting to come from Visa, they're not going to do that. They don't want to scare their clients off. So read the text, okay, and make a determination based on that, and you'll sometimes see that you'll read things that you think, wow, why is my credit card talking to me this way? Another thing is, they're taking you to sites that want to sound like the real thing. Like in this case, the domain is visa-secure.com. That's not the same thing as visa.com. So always be wary of things like that. And again, threats, and in this case, statement demanding immediate action. It's like being in a car dealership where they're pressuring you to buy now. They don't want you to leave the lot because they don't want you to go somewhere else, and there might be a better deal somewhere else. This is the same principle here. So if you feel that you're being pressured to act quickly, okay, there's a reason for it. So that is another telltale sign of a phishing scam, is that they want you to act quickly. They're putting pressure on you. Here the pressure is, if you fail to update your Visa card, it will be temporarily disabled. If you fall for this and you go to that website, they're going to ask you to log in, and guess what? Now they have your login details, okay? Because you've given them to somebody that is visa-secure.com, and this site may be up for months before somebody reports it or somebody takes it down, and a lot of people could be had in the meantime. So again, if there's one thing that I really want to instill upon you is, don't follow links from emails. Okay, if you suspect that the email may be real, okay, open your browser and manually enter their URL and go to their website. Never follow links from emails. Number two is, attachments. You've always heard don't open attachments, and that's great. Okay, your service provider should be blocking attachments that are malicious. So executables, zip files, RAR files, Office files like Word and Excel that have macros. Those types of files, they shouldn't even allow them to get through on email systems. Okay, and in the old days, they used to tell you don't open up the attachments if you don't know who it's from. Well, technology has gotten to the point where these hackers are able to, get really good. Okay, so that old adage about don't open it if you don't know where it's from, well, guess what? Be wary even if you know who it's from. Okay, like I said, technology's gotten good. Programs can now go into people's laptops, go through their address book, and send themselves out. Okay, so you'll get an email from somebody that you know, that has familiarity. Sometimes you'll even see their signature on there. So just because it's coming from somebody that you know, it doesn't mean that you should open it, or that it's real, or that you should follow the link. And the most important thing, the most important takeaway is Is it unsolicited? Are you expecting it? If you get an email out of the blue, here's a copy of your invoice, and you think, what invoice? That's a red flag right there. Okay? Call the person that supposedly sent you the email and ask him, hey, did you just send me an email about an invoice? Because I don't really know that we have any invoices pending. Okay? You might discover that it's a sham. So anything that is unexpected is a dead giveaway. So many of the hacks that I have seen where people's credentials are stolen because they click on a link to go somewhere. It's from things that are unexpected. Somebody sending you your credit card saying, oh, we've had an issue, we've had to reset your password, go here and log in to verify your... They weren't expecting that. Okay? So again, if you receive an email, even if it's from somebody that you know, okay, but you're not specifically expecting it at that point or that moment, it's probably fake. This is another common email scam or phishing that has been popular in the last year or two. I've seen more and more of these. Of course, our detection systems through email gateways have become very good at detecting attachments that have viruses or even blocking them. So, always hacking is a cat and mouse game. We come up with countermeasures, and then so the hackers will find something else. Okay. One of the things that they found in the last year has been instead of sending the attachments directly where they get blocked or they get scanned by the email scanning system, they'll send an innocuous file like a PDF. Now, if you've ever created a PDF, you know that you could create links in PDFs. Relatively easy to do with a PDF editor. And a PDF usually will fly under the radar. The email systems will let them through. If the scanner scans a document like this one, there's no virus on it. All there is a link. But that link takes you to a site here, okay, called robustcalgary.com. And that site is probably where you are going to have your credentials lifted by asking you to log in, either a Dropbox, Office 365, or what have you, or it's going to download some malicious content. So you've got to be wary of these types of emails. You'll receive an email, myscan OneDrive.pdf. Now, OneDrive is a common data repository from Microsoft. So here's the thing. If somebody sends you a PDF, you should be able to just click on the PDF and have your PDF opened in your computer. You should not have to go to another site. In this case, when you open this PDF, okay, the PDF opens in your browser, and then it's got an additional window that reads open. Okay, and that's where the thing is. If for example, if I send you a document called financial information and it's in PDF, you should be able to click on it, open up that document, and get the financial information in that document. If that document then has a link or it has another graphic or a button that says open, then that is your red flag right there, because it's trying to take you somewhere else. Okay, it's being crafty by placing a graphic with a hyperlink, and the main objective is to override security systems and take you somewhere else where then you're either going to have your credentials stolen, or you're going to have an additional malware file or an additional file downloaded into your computer. Document sharing has expanded, and it simplified the business world in many ways. So it was just a matter of time before con artists found out how they can exploit that too. Networks like Dropbox, Google Docs, DocuSign, and others have been used to trick people into installing malware, or email phishing has used them as a way to steal people's credentials into these services. There are two very common scenarios. The first one is that you'll receive an email from a service like Dropbox or OneDrive or whatever, saying that you have a document pending for you. Now, when you click on the link and you try to log in, it may take you it may either prompt you for a username and password, and you think, oh, in order for me to get to this document that they're sending, I have to put in my Dropbox credentials. Well, no, not really. What they're trying to do is they're trying to take your username and password from Dropbox. Once they have that, then they've got access to your Dropbox. They could go in there, they could snoop through it, they could see what you've got in there, and then they can actually even either steal the information that's in there, or they could upload some malware or something else and use you as a conduit to further propagate their malware onto other unsuspecting PCs. Same thing with DocuSign. You know, if you get an email, claiming it's from DocuSign, your contract is waiting, and you don't know what contract, or you're not really expecting anything, it's probably fake. And sometimes you click on a DocuSign and it takes you to a site where it's trying to download some malicious software claiming that you need to install a viewer or some other type of program in order to view that document. Okay, as I mentioned in the last slide, the main purpose of this type of phishing attack is theft of credentials or installation of malware. And these links to services like Dropbox and DocuSign and things, they're used because these things fly under the radar of your spam filter, because after all, a lot of people use Dropbox, they use OneDrive, they send you links so that you can download something from the Dropbox. But if you're following a link and right away it asks you to enter credentials, then it's probably fake. It's a credential theft phishing email. Same thing, if you're being asked to download a file and right away and you don't clearly see what the file is, or it's an email that you're not expecting, then it's probably fake. Follow the same exact rules for these types of phishing emails as you do for any others. If it's something that you're not expecting it's probably false. Don't follow the links from the email, and call the sender. That's the most important thing. Call the sender and verify whether or not they really did send it to you. So if you're not expecting it, call the sender. I know I've said that about 10 times, and I'll probably say it another 10 times before this is over. If you are not expecting it specifically, call the sender and ask them if they sent it. Again, you should not click on email links. Okay, and just be wary for anything that announces contracts, wire transfers, refunds, invoices, statements, financial data, anything like that. Be very suspicious of. Call the sender, ask them if they sent it. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned it. Call the sender and ask them if they sent it. Again, hackers, scam artists, they're leveraging these file repositories to spread malware and lift credentials. In this case that you see here, it was a link to download some kind of document from WeTransfer. Okay, WeTransfer is another common a program that people use when they've got documents or files that are too large to be sent through email. They use a service like this. So hackers know about this, and they've started to exploit it by either sending out fake emails, or they open up fake accounts with companies like this and use it to send up a few emails to some people, and then hopefully they get the people to click on these links, and what they're actually downloading is a piece of malware instead of the document that they are supposed to be looking for. Again, most of the time that you see something like this, it's going to be that you're not expecting it, so always call the sender and make sure. So these phishing scams, when you click on the link, they take you to file repositories, which they're not blocked because they're legal. I mean, Dropbox is fine, so they're probably not being blocked by your firewall. It's not something that's illegal. Their website's being taken down. These are perfectly normal things that we use on a day-to-day basis. The thing is that there's some people that get on it and they use it for malicious intents. They use this to send out these phishing links, get you to click, and then you go into the repository and you download something, and then boom, you've been had. So no matter how legitimate it seems, if you're not expecting it, call the sender and verify. Another really sneaky way that hackers can get to you is through the use of fake email conversations. This is a little bit more difficult to do because it requires having hacked an account. But let me explain to you how it works.
let's say that somebody who you've had a prior email conversation with gets hacked. Somebody, either through the use of a weak password, somebody gets into their email account. One of the things that they do is they download their email account down to a PST file onto their local computer, and then they can sit around and analyze it and go through all your email history, and they find conversations between you and other people, and between you and them and a bunch of other people. Then they could actually take those conversations and copy and paste them into a fake email, so that when you receive this fake phishing email, you're going to see a conversation that you've had in the past, and you recognize it, and so your immediate thought is, oh, this must be real because I remember going back and forth with this person. But in fact, what happened is, somebody in that conversation has had their emails hacked, and somebody went through their emails, they copied and pasted some conversations, and then they sent you an email to try to get you to feel that sense of familiarity so that you lower your guard. Again, even if you feel that sense of familiarity, don't lower your guard. Always follow through with the advice that I've given you, which is to, stop, think, pause, don't act hasty, and always call the sender and verify the authenticity before you take action if you receive an email that you are not specifically expecting.